Let's bring in Hollywood divorce attorney David Glass for more on this. David?
People going through divorces are going through some of the hardest times of their lives, and a lot of what they're going through is emotional. And in any divorce, there's a huge sense of loss, and loss of relationship, of money, some friends.
Welcome to another episode in Season 4 of the Hourglass Podcast, and more specifically, our People in the Know series. Today, we have an extra special guest, the legendary Rich Little, who is arguably one of the funniest comics and certainly the world's greatest impressionist. He's going to talk a little bit about how humor can keep all of us level, regardless of the situation. Now, Rich, you are referred to as the man of 1,000 voices. You've appeared on countless television shows, produced 9 comedy albums, and 3 HBO specials. Welcome.
Sure, anytime.
What year did you make your debut in comedy?
On the Judy Garland Show, professionally. Before that, I was doing a lot of television and nightclub performances in Canada. And then Mel Torme, the singer, was instrumental on getting me on the Judy Garland Show in 1964.
How did you come to doing your fabulous impressions?
Well, back in Canada, yeah. I started out imitating at coffee houses and, Knights of Columbus and Jewish community centers. And, I was paid $5 or $10. And I was teamed up with another kid named Jeff Scott. And we had a double impersonator act. And then later he went into politics and I continued in show business.
Was it natural? Did it require a great deal of study?
Well, I was always a big movie fan, and I love movies, even at a young age. And I wanted to be the people that I saw on the screen. And a lot of kids idolized sports figures and, whatever they're interested in, race car drivers or whatever it is, baseball players. And I was just fascinated with actors and movies, and so it's with imitating my teachers, it went from teachers to local politicians, and then eventually it went to movie stars, and it just gradually happened.
So then, did you write your own material, or how did you acquire it?
A lot of the television shows I did, they wrote stuff for me. And if I liked it, I used it. If I didn't, I would dream up some of my own lines. And, it was just trial by error, really.
In your life's journey, what role has humor played in keeping you up on days where you'd otherwise be down?
Yeah. Humor is great. I mean, especially, times like these. There isn't much laughter in the world right now. And, when people go and see me or other comedians, just for the time they're sitting there, they're forgetting their problems and they're enjoying themselves and laughing, and it takes them out of their humdrum world, and it's very gratifying to see an audience laughing and enjoying themselves. And that's a great gift. Really is.
Now, in watching you, I've noticed that it's not only your expressions of the celebrity you're impersonating, but it's also the precision you have with your voice. Was it ever a worry to you when you had a cold or laryngitis or something like that?
Well, I've my biggest worry actually is my voice. I get a lot of postnasal drip, and clogs up my vocal cords, and that's a problem.
So when you get that throat congestion, are there any tips you can share to get around it? I know many of our viewers get nervous at some of their hearings, and it affects the quality of their voice.
You use little tricks to get by that. You clear your throat whenever they're laughing, and try not to make it obvious. But and it's really trial by error.
Now, in my case, with divorce clients, there's not always that much laughter in the room. I wish there were, but I know my clients have learned a lot from their experiences. How about you? As gifted as you are, have you ever had any times when things didn't go over so well? Like, were there any differences in audience reactions?
I mean, some shows I feel I'm not doing that well, and my voice isn't that great, and then I get a standing ovation. So you never really know.
It sounds like some of my trials between the judge and the parties and the witnesses, you never know how all these various audiences are going to react. Now, many of us have some go-to remedies when we need to regroup and pull it together. As you said, your voice is everything. So what is one of the best things you do to re-energize or rejuvenate?
Sleeping is probably the greatest thing for me. I don't get enough sleep. So I try to get at least 8 hours a night, and sometimes I don't. And it depends on my voice. My voice is everything, and sometimes the PA system isn't very good, and you have to work around that. Sometimes the audience isn't that great, and
I mentioned a moment ago, every audience, every courtroom I go into is different for me. How does it work for you?
so it's really every night I perform, it's a kind of different. And when the show's over, we sit in the green room and go, boy, that audience was terrible. They didn't laugh at anything. And then the next night you come back to the dressing room and wow, they laughed at everything. They just loved the show. So, every audience is different.
As I said at the opening of our show, we're so glad to have you on today to talk about the importance of humor, since it's been the main focus of your life's work. Now, I'm wondering, and I'm sure our audience is too, have you yourself ever used humor as a resource personally during down or bad days? What do you like, or what doesn't make you laugh?
Yeah. It's interesting being a comedian myself. I'm not really into situation comedies much. I've done a lot of dramatic things though in my career, and I've done a lot of things that didn't involve doing impersonations, Hawaii Five-0 and Policewoman and things like that, where I played a character, and that was a lot of fun to do, so.
Have you been doing impressions and comedy all throughout your career?
I haven't been doing impressions all my life. I've done some stage work too, and done a lot of. I haven't done a lot of movies though. Very few movies I've done. One or two. That's about it.
Has there ever been a time when you decided that doing an impersonation of someone just might not be appropriate?
Well, yeah. I think if somebody passed away or died tragically, you would not do them because out of respect, So you have to be careful about that, and you've got to be careful that you're not being, too over the top and really putting somebody down viciously, which I never have done. But you've got to be careful in your act that you're not politically correct,
Now, I have to ask, what has been your favorite impersonation to perform over the years? And is there any chance we can get you to share any of them with us today?
Well, I'd always like to do Ronald Reagan. I got to know him quite well. Hey, Rich, I think you do me better than I do. You should become president. I thought, no, I don't want to be president. Thank you.
Yeah.
He just loved humor, and I got along great with him. He's one of my all-time favorite people. Was Ronald Reagan. There's a couple of people that I really warm up to. Ronald Reagan's one, and Jimmy Stewart, Jack Benny, George Burns. Those are the greats for me.
Right. Now, what about this? Is there any impression that you have not yet performed that you would like to perform in the future?
No, I never was able to do Ed McMahon, never was able to imitate, well, a lot of people that I've tried to do, but just didn't work out. But, the thing is, with me, I'm known for about 4 or 5 impressions that seem to be people's favorites. I'd say Johnny Carson, Ronald Reagan, George Burns. Those are the ones that I really like to do.
What's next on the agenda with your hugely successful career?
I don't know what next in my career is. It's kind of winding down at my age. You know, I'm so old now, I can remember when sex was dirty and the air was clean, you know. As long as I've got my health, I'll keep performing. But you know, it gets tougher because as you get older, you don't quite have the energy, you know. And I've been very blessed because I haven't had a lot of health problems, minor things like my voice, but nothing really that serious. So I've got a few years left, you know. That when I came along, I was the youngest of the group. And if you look at the Dean Martin roast today, you'll see that I was one of the youngest there. They were all older than I was, and most of them are gone now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad. I guess my act is deceased. People like Frank Gorshin and a lot of the impersonators before me used to turn around and get into character and then turn back and they were Kurt Douglas or John Wayne or whatever. But I like to do them quickly. I could do Ronald Reagan 1 minute and do Jimmy Stewart the next minute, and then do George Burns and then Jack Benny, you know, and I've always been able to do them quickly, you know.
Now, Rich, how do we get your albums, see your specials? In short, how do we get more Rich Little?
Well, I've got a book out. And,
Okay.
It's in its second printing. This is called People I Have Known and Been by Rich Little. And it's not a biography. It's funny things that have happened with me and celebrities down through the years. And you can pick it up at Amazon.com. I'm very happy about this book because I put a lot of my drawings in here. And a lot of people don't know that I'm an artist and, you know, and drew a lot of the people. Everybody I talk about in this book, I've drawn a picture of, and it's great. It's a hobby that I had before I did impersonations, you know, was drawing people like Jimmy Stewart, and, you know. Yeah, Jimmy said to me one day, he said, Rich, I talk so damn slow. I can't believe it. He said, I talk so slow that I remember one time I was halfway through making a movie and I found out they'd already finished the sequel. He had a couple of funny lines, Jimmy Stewart was. He was not a comedian, but if we did something together, a benefit or something, Jimmy would come up with a funny line. I remember another time he said, I'm very fond of Rich Little. I at one point was thinking of adopting him, but my wife Gloria said, no, Jim. 2 people around the house going, whoa, it would be one too many.
Thanks so much for your time today. I can assure you this interview has been a real boost for our listeners. And I plan to share some of your sage suggestions with my clients, colleagues, and friends.